to a somewhat belated edition of Vegas Tips and Tricks Weekly. Today's program is entitled Checking In, and we're going to take a little bit of a different twist on a topic that comes up literally all the time. Um, and that is hotels, places to stay in Las Vegas. Um, if I'm pretty sure this topic in general is a dead horse, and we have been beating that dead horse for years now. And one of the reasons we do it is because people like it. People want to talk about hotels. They want to talk about, um, different places to stay, pros and cons, etc. But today we're not really going to talk so much about specific hotels. We might mention a name here and there, but in general, what we're going to do is talk about hotels in general, the process of booking a hotel, getting the best rate, what to expect, the checking in process, how to get the most out of your hotel experience, what sort of amenities to look for, how to take advantage of the property you're staying at, whether it be, a very basic budget property or a very high end property. In every single one of those cases, there are good, better, and best ways to deal with it. Now, the first thing to talk about is really booking a hotel. And I would say that probably for most people, anyway, the thing that they're looking for, most people book a hotel based upon getting the best price, or at the very least, the best deal, the best value, at least as they perceive it. One of the things about these hotel sites, these travel sites, um, is, people tend to look for their dates and they search, and almost inevitably, I mean, sometimes there'll be sponsored entries that'll come up right at the top. But generally, very close to the top are the least expensive options that you can choose. And I think for a lot of people, particularly a lot of first time Vegas visitors, they may look at a property and it will describe itself as being on the strip or being downtown or whatever. And they'll be like, well, that sounds good. That's where we want to be. And that's a great price. And so they'll click on it and stay. They might get a very tiny little room at the Golden Gate. They might find themselves staying at the Strat, which I like the Strat, but it's way, way north of the Strip, at least the main part of the Strip, and it's way, way south of downtown. So may not really have been what they were looking for. You could end up at a place like the hotel we talked about last week on Vegas Tips and Tricks number 97, the South Point. Really nice property. Technically on Las Vegas Boulevard, but it's a long ways from anywhere else. Of course, some people end up at places like Oyo, Circus Circus, and any number of other properties just based on price. Other folks, they may be looking for a specific hotel because a friend of theirs or a family member stayed there and really liked it. Or maybe it's a property they stayed at a few years ago and they're looking to stay there again because they enjoyed it. Um, how to get the best deal. That's really what people want. And again, that's probably maybe the most common question, other than just what hotel should I stay at, is how can I get the best deal on a room? And it kind of depends on you, kind of depends on your situation. But one way or another, it's going to require a little bit of legwork. And it will kind of depend on your situation whether it's really worth that. The best deal you're going to get 95% of the time is booking a hotel room through the Players Club. And if you're familiar at all with Las Vegas, you know that probably certainly the two biggest players clubs are Caesars Rewards and MGM Rewards. We'll leave aside everything that's been going on with MGM lately, but generally those are the biggest properties by far. There are certainly some other very large players clubs in town, Boyd, Station, even places like Wynn, Encore, and Venetian Palazzo. Certainly, they're not just Caesars and MGM, but as far as properties in the main part of the Las Vegas Strip, that's where most of them are. And you may think to yourself, well, I've never really stayed at any of these properties. I have no gambling history. But the thing about it is that MGM and Caesars in particular has properties all over the United States and even internationally in some cases. So if you've gambled at one of their properties somewhere on the East Coast or in Canada, or I suppose even Macau or something, you'll have some kind of a history there. And so you almost certainly will at least be able to get some kind of a discounted room over what you would pay just by calling the hotel directly and asking for a room. And in general, I always advise people to book directly through the property. And there are a number of reasons to do this. Normally, you can get pretty much the best deal that way. And if you've seen a deal somewhere else on one of the travel sites, a lot of times they will be willing to match those deals as well. But there's a bigger and better reason why you, several bigger and better reasons why you want to book directly through the property itself instead of through, say, Travelocity or Orbitz or something like that. No offense to those sites. They do a great job. Places like hotels.com. I mean, you can get some great deals once in a while through, some of these sites, Priceline, that kind of thing. So it's not that there's never good deals there, and sometimes maybe they're too good to pass up, but in general, you want to book through the hotel. And the reason is that if anything should possibly go wrong, some kind of a problem with your reservation, overbooking, not having the room available when it's supposed to be, at least the people that you need to deal with are looking you in the eye. And if it's not, if you can't get any satisfaction from the person checking you in, you can definitely talk to a manager. And if you booked through the hotel directly, it's going to be up to them to help you deal with that situation. If you book through Orbitz or Priceline, in all likelihood, you're going to have to get in touch with those folks to try to rectify the situation. And that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, and it's not necessarily the kind of thing you want to be doing when you're trying to get checked into your room and start your vacation. Secondly, I think in general, the hotels in Las Vegas do give preference in terms of the quality of the room to people that have booked direct, and particularly people who have booked direct through the Players Club. If people sometimes talk about having gotten really crappy rooms with lots of maintenance issues, and frankly, almost any hotel you have anywhere is going to have those issues. But if you're one of those folks that's sort of tagged as a gambler, or at least someone who's a uh, customer directly of that property, you're probably going to steer you into some of the better rooms on the property. Also, if you're interested at all, if you gamble at all, and you want the opportunity to get your room comped, and some of the things that you charge to your room comped, that's going to be, it's going to be impossible to get your room comped if you booked it through a third party. Um, you may be still able to get some of the, room charges comped, but room comps, you got to book directly through the hotel. So, okay, so you found a good deal. And sometimes that may take months. If you know you're going to be going to Vegas in, say, 6 months, you've got some time. And again, you're going to have to put in some legwork. Check out the main sites, look at prices. They do vary a lot. There are certainly emails that you can, services you can sign up for. Maybe you have a particular email address that you use just for travel or just for Las Vegas. And you put yourself on the mailing list, not just for hotels necessarily, but also airlines, that kind of thing. and wait for those folks to send you information. And these properties do frequently have sales. So if you're not a big time player, you may still be able to save 20 or 30% over the regular cost of the room if you have the time to follow these emails and follow these sales and take advantage of them. Not going to lie, it's going to be a little bit of legwork. Now, for some of us, we find that kind of fun. We like the planning process. If you're not one of those people, then you're probably best off just finding a price you can deal with and a property you can deal with and taking advantage of it and booking it right away. You can always check back a couple of months later and see if prices have gone down. And normally you're always able to cancel and rebook. So there you go. Okay, so you have your hotel room, you're ready to go. Before you go to Las Vegas, make sure that you at least have an email, a printout, anything you can get a hold of that will verify that you have made a room reservation, a confirmation number, those sorts of things. Get all that information together and make sure you have access to it easily when you get into town in case there's any kind of confusion. Another thing that to me pops up a lot of time with Las Vegas hotel rooms, well, hotel rooms in general, is getting checked in early. Now, most places anymore will give you an opportunity to pay extra, sometimes 30, 40, $50 to guarantee an early check-in. Um, I don't normally recommend taking advantage of those when you book because A, there's a decent chance you can get checked in early for free, or at the very least, you have a very good opportunity to get checked in early for a price less than what they're offering on the website. Now, you may, in some situations, run into the fact that you simply cannot get a room right away. Um, you know, it's not really that difficult a situation to deal with. They'll normally text or call you when the room becomes available. You can always go to the bell desk and check your luggage for a few bucks and, start your vacation. Um, so there you go. But again, I've had a lot of good luck, particularly arriving sort of midday, 11, 12 o'clock, maybe checking out of one hotel and trying to check into another, um, being able to check in early and not being charged any kind of fees at all. Again, your best bet is if you book through the Players Club because they're going to see you tagged as a player and they're going to give you more preference. Along those same lines, a lot of hotels will list a specific check in time. Many times it'll be, say, 4 o'clock. The naive customer in that situation comes back to the hotel at exactly 4 o'clock, or maybe 3:50 or 3:55 or 3:45, and gets in a ridiculously long line with all the other people who decided to come back at 4 o'clock to check in. First of all, always see if you can check in early. You can always say no if there's a ridiculous fee assorted with it, but don't try to check in at 4 o'clock. Check in at 3 o'clock. Check in at 5 o'clock. Don't come back when they tell you to come back because everybody's going to be there in line at the same time. Sorry, I just whacked the computer. It'll be all right. You can still hear me, I hope. But yeah, so for God's sake, do not come back at the time, the official time they tell you to check in, because that is the worst case scenario for sure. So you've got your keys. In some cases, I do want to say one thing really quickly. In some cases, hotels will allow you to essentially check in before you arrive, or when you're getting ready to board your flight or on your flight or whatever. Um, I've had pretty good luck doing this. I know we've had a lot of issues recently with MGM and their computers and their systems, and I don't know what the status of that is right now, but I've had pretty good luck checking in with them early, using a digital key even, or just going to the counter and printing out a traditional plastic key. So I generally view that pretty positively. If you're looking for some kind of upgrade, complimentary or otherwise, then definitely consider waiting and standing in line. If you have a hotel's branded credit card, typically you can cut a lot of lines. And again, that's probably going to give you an advantage when you're trying to check in or get an upgrade. Um, we'll touch on the topic of the old $20 trick here really quickly, and then we'll exit out for the day. We'll come back to the hotel thing a little bit in coming weeks, but um, again, it comes up all the time in the Facebook group. What's the $20 trick? Well, basically, it's a gratuity offered to the person that is checking you in um, to go ahead and check and see if there are any complimentary upgrades available. Sometimes people will book the most basic room in the hotel, or they may book what they call like a run of the house room, which is just kind of the most basic room that's available. And then they will see about an upgrade. Almost any property will offer an upgrade for a price. But again, in some cases, particularly if the hotel is not that busy, and if you're a good customer, they may be able to upgrade you for free. Never hurts to ask. Um, the sort of protocol of the $20 trick is when they ask you for your driver's license and a credit card, you slip a $20 bill discreetly between the two of them, hand them the stuff, and then say, are there any complimentary room upgrades available? Typically, they will type away for a while, at least to pretend that they're trying to find you something. Um, and they might do it. People have received upgrades from basic rooms to penthouse suites. Um, and many people have received at least some sort of a room upgrade. Uh, but, of course, you never know whether or not they might have received the same thing without tipping. Um, it is frowned upon generally by most hotel chains to tip the desk clerk. It's one of the reasons you do it discreetly. And I would say probably most of the time people don't actually get that much of an upgrade. A lot of times they'll get a nice room with a view. They may get some fees waived. We'll talk about that in another episode as well. But um, so it's often described as the first gamble of your trip. And if you want to try it out, hey, go ahead. There's a lot of people that have talked about it and studied it a lot more than I have. But I just thought I'd bring it up. Okay, if you enjoyed our show on Vegas hotels and how to handle the booking process and the check-in process, let me know. We can talk more about Vegas hotels in the weeks to come. We have some fun shows that I've got lined up for you coming up in the winter months. I think you're going to have a great time with it, and I'm going to have a lot of fun putting those together. But hopefully you'll join us midweek for our Vegas Tips and Tricks show. We have just 3 episodes left of that. And hope you'll join us next weekend, hopefully Saturday, for another episode of Vegas Tips and Tricks Weekly. And until then, I hope you have a great, lucky, and healthy week. We'll see you all again real soon. Bye bye.